Morning, everyone. We are just waiting for the mayor, Scott Worth, the fire chief, and let's see, Carmine Marcino, the sheriff, is not coming. Apparently, there was a shooting incident with a sheriff's deputy, so he will not be here. It's going to be, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on the third person. Here comes the mayor out of the temporary town hall building. Full town council is here. Scott Worth and Andy Hyatt, the town manager, is the other speaker. So thank you all for tuning in. Do let me know how the sound is when they begin.
You got Chief Worth? Everybody ready? Good morning, everyone. My name is Mayor Dan Allers, town of Fort Myers Beach. Thanks for joining us today. We're obviously here because of a tropical storm, Idalia, that is currently out west of Cuba. We just wanted to get in front of everyone to kind of let you know that we've been having discussions, obviously, with Lee County Sheriff's Office, the fire district. Sheriff Marcino could not be here, unfortunately, due to, as if you haven't heard, the officer-involved shooting to one of his family members and fellow deputies. So we wish him a speedy recovery. We want to talk a little bit about the lessons that we learned, obviously, from Hurricane Ian. And one of the biggest things was communication. And that's part of the reason why we're here today. We want to make sure that we're in front of it. We're trying to keep everyone abreast of what we're doing, what the fire district is doing, what Lee County Sheriff's Office is doing, and then what we're doing together to ensure that we're ready as best we can for an event. One of the first things, obviously, is your debris, picking up your trash cans, securing anything in your homes, outside your homes, your patio furniture, your boats, anything that could potentially be an object should we get a storm surge. They're predicting 2 to 4 right now, so we're preparing for a heavy rain event, but we're also preparing for the worst should it change. We did learn after Ian that things can change overnight. So as we get the information coming in from the Hurricane Center, we will keep you up to date through our social media platforms, as well as through Lee County as well. Your trailers. A lot of us are still living in trailers from Ian almost a year ago. Please do not stay in the trailers. If you have someplace else you can go, please go. They're not safe to stay in. Even with a minor surge, they could float. So be careful, make your plan, work your plan, but do not stay in your trailers. Again, I have to say it as many times as I can. Do not stay in your trailers. Get to some place that is more secure. Obviously, we talked about your trash cans, but move things to your second level. We're really concerned about the damaged structures that are still on the island. It has been 11 months, but we know that there's still debris. So we're working on trying to get that up. We have waste management going around now, trying to pick up some of the stuff that's still left over on the side streets to make sure that it does not become flying objects. Should it get to the point where we lose any kind of communications or technology, we will have a board up at Walmart just off the island, up by San Carlos Boulevard, or on not Old San Carlos, my apologies, Summerlin, that we'll have, and we'll also have someone up there to answer any questions, and we will get all this out through the social media. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention all my fellow council members, Vice Mayor Adderholt, Councilor Veach, Councilor King, and Councilor Woodson are standing behind me. They're fully engaged, have been since they took office with the town staff. We have all our key staff members behind us, as well as Chief Worth, Andy Hyatt, who's our town manager. With that, I'm going to bring up Andy to fill in a couple of things that I may have missed.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. One thing that we are doing as a staff and hope to continue to do as we go through our daily routines here is to prepare for the worst and expect the best. And that's what we continue to do as of yesterday and Saturday. Staff and I were going around town looking at stormwater drains, debris on the side of the streets. our contractor that handles our debris, our stormwater clean out. They've gone through the entire island. We're still looking and still going back over to make sure storm drains are unclogged. Some of that won't do much good when there's a high tide and a full moon that we expect in the next 36 hours, but still we're doing our due diligence to make sure that works. All our storm drains work. We also have, thanks to Waste Management, we have a debris hauler that's going around today and possibly early in the morning to pick up loose debris, starting with brush and then any other construction debris. We're asking that nobody bring new stuff out. Don't start trimming your trees today because that's kind of going to defeat the purpose. But we are out there today and tomorrow picking up debris and hauling it off. All the construction sites, what we want you to know is that, secure the construction sites. We're picking up our cones. We're having the porta potties in town in the Times Square area secured. We're doing all of our due diligence with our signs, but we'll put everything back out right after the storm is over. Make sure the mound house is being secured. We're securing all of our equipment and vehicles. We're going to be taking vehicles and equipment off island to a secure location. We did lose some equipment and other items in the last storm and Ian, but we find ourselves here less than a year later, doing and talking and preparing, hopefully for what will not be much, but we are preparing nonetheless. All of our vehicles will be transported off island, so we don't lose any vehicles or have any waterlogged or damaged vehicles, and just making sure that our employees are safe. And I've got a pretty good group of people behind me, and this is a united front. There's a united team here that we have, and we're really excited about this group and how we're working for our citizens to make sure that they're safe and secure. But we want everybody to take their own safety into their hands and heed some of the warnings and concerns we have about getting off the island, not staying in the trailers, having your hurricane kits ready. So at this time, I'll step back and I'll introduce the Fort Myers Beach Fire District Chief, Scott Worth.
Thank you, Manager and Mayor. Scott Worth, Fire Chief, Fort Myers Beach Fire District. You've heard the town talk a lot about operating an emergency plan, a hurricane plan. Fire department also has a hurricane plan we're actively working. If this sounds familiar, it's because all of the media agencies have continuously pointed us towards the resources available through Lee County Emergency Management, the town's websites, our media websites, and we're also preparing. Up until this morning, we were preparing for a minor event. And the thing about a hurricane plan is it has to be dynamic. The information is changing constantly, as you know, and in the information starting this morning was the potential for a major storm, Cat 3 storm. So our plan is changing as well. That plan could include emergency services having to evacuate the island if we hit with that worst case scenario and a potential of a surge greater than what we're currently being told. We know from Ian that the track can change in one cycle. It can change quickly, and that changes the impacts dramatically. So the point is here, if you can, make sure that you're ready to revise your plan and change as the conditions change. Be assured that we're working with all of our emergency service partners, from Lee County Sheriff to Lee County Emergency Management, EMS, and we will be here to respond to your emergencies once the storm passes. And that's just a reminder that emergency services will shelter in place, starting with sustained winds of about 40 miles an hour. So if you're calling 911, know that somebody will be there to answer your call. Your calls will be logged and prioritized. And just like we do on any other day, we prioritize life and then property, and we will respond to those calls for service once it is safe to do so in that order. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Thanks, Andy. We've also been keeping an eye. One of the things that I think people forget about is keeping an eye on the tides. Tomorrow, the tide is, I believe, right around 4 o'clock in the morning, a high tide around 4, and then also around 3 o'clock. Wednesday, we have a full moon. Those all have a important significance to when the storm actually passes. They're currently saying that the storm will clear Cuba early tomorrow morning. That'll give us obviously a better idea of the track. As we learned from Ian, the track can change every minute, every hour. So we're keeping an eye on that, as Chief Worth said, and we'll be prepared for anything. Again, I want to stress, make sure you work your plan. We've been through this before, unfortunately. Hopefully no one has to go through it again like we did, but make sure you put your plan. It means remember your batteries. I know we've all been very busy. So batteries, flashlights, gas, generators, things like that, that you need to be able to make it after the storm. If we lose power, obviously you're going to need your generator. So even though we've all been really busy, make sure you're diligent in getting your hurricane supplies ready to go so that in the event you need them, you have them. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions. Yeah.
Chief, are you, other than the trailers, are you asking people to evacuate the island? And if you're not asking them now, when will you decide one way or the other?
What we say is continue to watch the weather, continue to watch the updates. The guidance will come from both the state and county level. We're not going to act independent of those agencies. We all work together. So that guidance will come from the county. And at that point, it will be a collective effort where we reinforce that message.
Do you know, though, when the decision might be made?
That what I do know is that the county is actively having meetings this morning, and the information will be dynamic, and it will be coming continuously until this is gone and past this. Go ahead. We have a hurricane plan in place. We are exercising it pretty much on the same schedule we did last year. That plan worked fairly well for us. Last year with Ian, we ended up sheltering on the east side of 75 based on the information we got. Now, those decisions were also made dynamically as the conditions change. That's the point I think we're all trying to hit. Last year during this time, approximately this time, there was a path very similar to what we're seeing now. So we can't put a plan in place and tell you this is what you need to do on Wednesday, because it changes based on the information. So as soon as we have any indication that the storm is tracking further east or the intensity is increasing beyond what we're seeing right now, our information to the public is going to change, and it's going to be as current as it possibly can be. If that makes sense. Yes, if we feel that the need, and working with the county, if everybody collectively sees storm surges that increase, then an evacuation order, if it's warranted, then yes, it'll be issued.
That number is very difficult to calculate because, as you know, we have people that come and go all the time. Some people are coming into work on their house. We don't have an exact number, but we've been very good about trying to get information out through you and all the other social media outlets that will put it out there for us, also through ours, to pay attention. We're not going to be quiet. Back to your question about the lessons learned, the major lesson we learned is we have to be very vocal and we have to be out in front of everything that comes in. As the chief said, it's very dynamic. It's an ever-changing thing. Every minute, every hour, it's going to change. But we'll get the information out as soon as we can. The other part of your question is, we see people on the streets. Every one of my fellow council members, myself, the staff, Andy, our operations director, we're all out on the streets every single day and talking to our residents, even before the storm. So, we talk to them to figure out what it is they didn't like or what it is we could do better. We take those, we come back. We've been having roundtable discussions with the fire district as well as Lee County Sheriff's Office and our staff as to what we're going to do should this come up. And as the chief said, we're working our plan. We know where we had to get better. We're implementing those things now, but we'll be prepared. And if it does come to the time where we have to issue an evacuation order, you'll know about it as soon as we do.
Can't hear the question. Asking about homes.
Well, unfortunately, more than we'd like. But I don't have the exact numbers in front of me of how many homes are still needing to come down. There are still some that are needing to be cleaned up queue. Obviously, there are still homeowners working through their insurance companies to get it down. We've been going around doing what we can to pick up what we can. As the manager said, Waste Management is working with us the next 2 days, going around and picking up any kind of loose stuff that's sitting on the side of the road that could become a projectile. But we're keeping an eye on it. Staff will be going around the next couple of days, putting eyeballs on things just in case the storm track does shift and comes towards us a little bit more. We did learn from Hurricane Ian, we need to be better about having pictures before and after to assist us in the FEMA things. So that's currently what the staff's doing now. Well, as the chief said, we're keeping an eye on it every hour. Most people standing up here probably won't sleep for the next 48 hours because we're constantly watching and seeing the updates, as many of the people at home are watching. As I said earlier, it's important to keep an eye on the tides and when that storm is going to pass. If it does turn a little more to the east, obviously that means a lot to our barrier island and our sister Sanibel Island up just north of us here a little bit. So it's a minute-to-minute, hour-by-hour thing. And as soon as we know, or as soon as we feel that it's important for everybody to get off the island, that you'll be the first to know. But again, I want to go back to, if you're in an unsafe structure, which in trailers are safe, but not with high winds or potential flooding, we want you to get out of those as soon as you can.
Mayor? Fox 4 asking a question. Biggest piece of advice she's asking.
Don't be complacent. If we learned anything from Ian, I think Irma led us all down the path of being complacent and thinking, well, it can't be us. Well, we learned we were wrong. We can control a lot of things. We can control evacuations. We can control product that we need to get out there. We can control getting support to people that need it, but we can't control Mother Nature. So don't be complacent. Don't get relaxed. It hasn't even been a year since we got hit last time. So we're very diligent about paying attention. Just keep an eye on it. Do your research. Work your plan that you have in place for you and your family. And if you need to leave, or if you feel like you need to leave, then certainly don't wait for us to advise you to leave.
Mayor? Hey, skip me.
I'll let Chief, you want to touch this one?
If I can follow up on your last question that you had just asked, if you're in a position where you can close your home up easily and make a trek inland or to some other part of the state as a precautionary, that is obviously best case scenario. In the days before the storm, if that evacuation order has to come, the roads get busy and traffic moves slowly. So if you have the ability to easily close up and relocate for a few days ahead of the other people who might take more time and be evacuating last minute, that's always best to do so. And answer your question? Oh, evacuation routes? Evacuation routes can be found, I believe, on Lee County emergency management sites. It's going to be your major roadways. They'll probably, for the most part, they'll be marked with signs that say evacuation route. However, in major events, there is the potential for changes to be made to flow of traffic and things of that nature. So again, it's dynamic. Keep an eye on the TV and the media and whatever sources you go to for information, because it will change hour by hour.
Mayor? If there is an evacuation, two questions. What is your plan to get people back on the island into their homes? And how are you going to prevent looting?
I didn't hear the last part.
How are you going to prevent looting?
Well, I think the sheriff's department would be best answered the looting. They, as you know, after Ian, they were on here fairly quickly. Was there a little bit of looting? Sure. You can't stop everybody right after the storm or the people that come just before the storm hits, but they did an excellent job to make sure that people's houses were secure as fast as possible after the storm, and I have no doubt that they will do that again. And the first part of your question again, sorry, Ed.
How are you going to get people back on the island when they're evacuated? What's the plan? That's
going to determine if the storm is bad or not. Obviously, everybody knows search and rescue has to be the first thing. Should we have to deal with a catastrophic storm like we did last year, we're going to work with the county sheriff's office and the fire district to let them get their job done. They've already got a couple plans, and I don't want to speak for them. What their plan is to get in right after the storm. They have a plan that they have to leave the island. I believe it's 40-mile-an-hour winds or higher, but I'll let the chief talk to that. But we're working directly with them. They have to do their job before we let people get back on the island. But I'll let the chief talk on that first part of your question.
Thank you, Ed. So as the mayor said, we have been collaborating on lessons learned from last year. And I think one of the biggest things that we realized is with the severity of the event last year, search and rescue played a much bigger part than it did during Irma or the other storms. So the response back to the island, it's going to be like any other emergency incident. We're going to secure the scene. We're going to secure life hazards. So if we have a search and rescue component, we will take care of that first. And then we're going to secure any of the other hazards, such as down power lines. as soon as it's safe to do so, we're going to open the island back up to the citizens and others. But we have to secure any life hazards and then any property hazards like power lines. So it will be dynamic. It could be shortly after the storm, but as you know, the search and rescue effort after Ian took, a week for us to secure all the.
Chief, when you look at the weather, the way it's coming together now, storm surge was brutal with Ian. What do you see coming storm surge wise?
On the path it's on now, I'm confident in the information we're being given for the potential for 2 to 4 foot above normal sea level. But again, as that path changes, if you look at where the storm is going, the high point, they're predicting 7 to 11 feet based on a Category 3 type storm. So if that path changes and we end up directly in line with a Category 3 storm, I would take that information you're seeing for North Florida right now and just move it down further south, closer to us.
You talked about securing construction sites that you guys are taking off phones, like I think of Times Square, and people not putting out extra debris. But what about the demolition sites, like the one right next door to Diamond Head? What's going to be done about that? Those could potentially come.
Can I? Yeah, go ahead. So in general, the contractors understand how to secure their construction debris, their building supplies and things of that nature. And we're a few days out. So the potential of what can be done, you can only do so much in the time period we have between now and impact. Debris next to Diamond Head presents a hazard, which is all the more reason to consider not being around if this picks up in intensity. Is because there is a lot of potential out here with the island in the condition that's in right now.
And we have had communication with those homeowners over the last couple of weeks, or the property owner. There was some confusion with who they thought was going to pick that debris up and who's responsible for it. They've been educated on whose responsibility that is. I believe they're trying to work through that now. It looks like the pile is getting a little bit smaller. It will unfortunately not be gone before the storm potentially hits us, but they are working on it, and they know that we're working with them to make sure it gets out of here as soon as possible. Yes, sir.
Good question, Annette. I'll ask that next. Looks like a resident asking a question about permitting. Do you think you all have done the job you should have done? It's a very long question. It's filibustering. I'll ask about the food trucks too. The press conferences and the food trucks. Come on, man, get to the point. That's the third time he's asked it.
I think with the resources that we have, obviously you were here. You said the first, thanks for the question. You have a lot to unpack there, but I'll do my best to try to get through it. The emergency berm. Do we think that's going to help? Absolutely. Without having it there, you'd be open to any kind of storm surge. So I think that will be there to help. Could it be possibly washed away? Sure. But its job is to protect the coastline, and that's what it's there for. And we think that will help.
Call the pink shell. Probably
Chad and his staff
okay.
worked really good with the county and the state to make sure that got done as fast as they could through the FEMA emergency funding to get that done. You know that we're working on the beach renourishment that'll hopefully start later this year, early next year. Just waiting on some permitting. As far as permitting, I'll speak to permitting. I know that's a very hot topic. We know that is the number one issue. I assure you, my fellow council members standing behind me hear you loud and clear. I can guarantee you the staff hears it loud and clear because they hear it from us every single day. Could it be as fast or as efficient as it is? Honestly, no. And we know that. And we're working at trying to implement new processes to make sure that it does get out and it does get done quicker. We're looking at potentially getting reviewers in-house. We've been talking about that. Unfortunately, what we're dealing with, and this is not an excuse, but it's a reality, we're not the only ones from Hurricane Ian and Nicole that are looking for people to come in to try to process permits as fast as you can. When you have an event like this, you have other people, outside agencies that are very involved in your permitting process on things that you have to do. We are doing a lot more now than we had to do before the storm. And that's simply because we saw what happened after Ian hit. We saw all the buildings that weren't built to current codes that are sitting in the back bay somewhere. We saw people that lost their lives because they were living in homes and chose not to leave in houses that were not built to current standards. So is our staff being very diligent about making sure we're following the Florida Building Code? Absolutely. Are there policy changes that we can make to make things easier for the homeowners? Absolutely. And that's what we're working through now. It's not going to happen overnight, but we have been working on it every single day, I promise you, since the last storm. And we have made good strides. We are processing permits as fast as we can, and some faster than other places.
It's asking about the swells.
You're talking about the scouring, or are you talking
something on the beach?
Yeah, Earthview has been out. I don't know if you've seen them on the streets.
Yeah, call Pink Shell.
Well, they haven't been on every street yet, unfortunately. I mean, if we were to have Earthview on every single street, nobody would be able to.
Oh, Corey.
Well, I think you have to balance. You have to balance between how fast you can get things done and how much you're upsetting, as you said, the permitting process, or how you're upsetting people trying to rebuild their homes. If we had Earthview on every single street, cleaning out every single storm sewer every single day, you wouldn't get construction trucks in there. You wouldn't be able to get into your home. So it's a very difficult balance. I would say that the town staff has done a remarkable job with the size of the staff, with the amount. You got to remember, it's not just us or you that lost our houses. They lost their houses too. And they were here the day after the storm fighting to make sure they got the water on. Well, I was here during the storm, and I could tell you exactly what I saw after the storm. And it's not something I think anyone should ever have to see. So the fact that these people and some of the staff saw a lot of the same things that I had to see, some of the things the first responders see all the time that no one should ever have to see, yet they showed up for work every single day and they're doing the best they can. And I could tell you, staff, myself, and my fellow counselors, I will speak for them, which I normally never do. We know what the problem is. We're working on it as best we can, and you will see changes. Yes, ma'am.
Back to Fox 4.
Now, I know extra resources were brought in afterwards, after it turned and devastated much of this area. Your chief or mayor, are you currently working with other counties throughout the state?
Are you working with other counties to come here in case the storm comes? Chief Worth, up to the microphone. He'll take that one.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. As far as response on a bigger level, you're right. So the fire department, for example, runs with a normal daily staffing of 11 people. In the week after Ian, we had almost 1,000 responders on this island doing search and rescue. So to answer your question, it was about 3 a.m. when the winds dropped down enough and we came in to start surveying the district and doing our assessments. Jacksonville was already here unloading equipment from their search and rescue team. So I tell you that because the state and the county, all levels, and even at the federal level, do an excellent job of pre-staging equipment. You often see the power trucks and how they come in mass. The same thing happens for emergency services. So if the storm should point our way, those resources will be pre-staged in the safest location as close as possible so they can be deployed as quick as possible. So, and that includes anything from, emergency service response to all the heavy equipment, the power companies, and everything that goes that's involved with getting, a community back in service. Miami-Dade was in here in the weeks after the storm, putting water lines in, and just doing things that, wouldn't typically happen with a 1-week turnaround. So I hope I answered your question, but those resources are pre-staged. These plans are worked often at all levels, and the resources we need should we get a direct hit, those resources will be here again. Absolutely, yes, yep.
I just from some people watching had some questions. The food trucks need to be evacuated, including La Ola. And what about the hurricane passes? How often can they get them? And if you are going to have more press conferences, where and when?
I'll let you talk on the passes. For the food trucks or anything that is temporary or movable, should get out of the way of the weather. So I would say if you can pack it up and move it out, pack it up and move it out. Last thing you want to do is leave it here, let it get destroyed, and you have to start all over again. So I hope it answers the question on that, on the passes.
Yeah, I'll let Andy.
For the last month, we've been issuing hurricane passes for reentry. We've had a huge success with that. We've mailed some out to residents who aren't in town right now. We fully expect and hope that if you leave, you take those passes with you. But in the interest that maybe you didn't, we'll be set up at the Walmart over off Summerlin, I believe the road is, and we'll have employees there that can help you get back on. So we really encourage you to, if you leave, and I would suggest that would be a good thing to do, because again, like she said, we don't know what this one's going to do. I would take those passes with me, because that just makes it easier when you come back and you don't have to turn around in the line and go back, which frustrates everyone. Our staff has been working diligently since I got here in May on our emergency response and on what we can do, and on our plan, and working with the Lee County Sheriff's Office and the Fort Myers Beach Fire Department, and also in constant contact with the Florida Department of Emergency Management, Governor's Office. We just do that. And the managers, we talk to each other, and I'm going to talk to the Lee County administrator after this meeting. So we do continually reach out to each other and help. Mutual aid is available for both of them, and it is used very well. We are constantly reviewing our permitting process and trying to be new and improved and have the latest, greatest, but it's efficiency that we're looking for. And when you have something that happened like this, that happened here, we have 1,008 homes that are no longer here. And then 96, 97% of the structures are damaged. So that's a lot. That's all of a sudden you go from, a small number to astronomical numbers. And so that's a lot for anybody, especially a town this size.
Oh, press conference. It's obviously we'll be monitoring the storm like everybody else. I'm sure your viewers are monitoring as well. As there is a need to make changes, we'll have a press conference as needed, but we do not have anything scheduled at this point. As we get information from other agencies, we'll be sure to update it. And if we have to have another press conference, we certainly will. We're hoping it would be here. If we have to have it at Walmart, we're having a whole nother conversation. So if we have another one, we will certainly shoot to have it here in the same location. But if it strengthens faster or moves faster, we have to adjust. We certainly are ready to do that. Yes, ma'am. No. I mean, there's not a one of us that didn't know what we could potentially be signing up for when we decided to stay in here and be, on the council. So, everybody goes through different stages of grieving, and we saw that immediately after the storm. I think we're all at that point now where we've gotten over that first part of it. We're trying to rebuild our lives. We certainly have heightened senses when it comes to storms like this. We know where we live. We know what to expect now, obviously. And I think our residents will be prepared, as well as everyone behind me is prepared to do what we have to do as fast as we have to do it. But personally, I'm fine. I mean, I'm fine. Yeah, you certainly think about it. We all have the same days where, you're sitting at home and it's a lot to unpack and there's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of things, but you're not doing this because it's easy. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do. And I think we're all ready. Should we have to answer the bell again? Hopefully nobody has to. I'm really hoping that we never have to worry about this again, but we're ready. Anything else? All right. Thank you all for coming. Have a good day.
Thank you all for tuning in. And I think the event for tonight is. Jeff, is the event still on tonight? Yeah. Okay. Right now it's on. So far, okay. And the event is still on for tonight, at 4 to 6 o'clock at the Bay Oaks for the baseball field. If it changes, we'll let you all know, but we'll see you live tonight from that event. And thank you all for tuning in. Appreciate it.